On this episode of On the Bridge, I'm chatting with Mark Pascoe, known as someone who's helped shape the modern superyacht tender as we know it. From a background in high-performance powerboat racing to over 2 decades in the yacht industry, he's been behind some of the most technically advanced and beautifully engineered tenders on the water. He was involved in building the tenders for the very famous Maltese Falcon, and today is the co-founder of Falcon Tenders, known for fully custom, one-off builds, cutting-edge hybrid propulsion, and a relentless focus on craftsmanship.
So this is where the build begins.
Right.
So that's tooling with a deck being made inside it. Then that deck comes out and goes onto the hull. So when that deck comes out of the mould, it will end up being fitted onto this hull. And from that moment, it starts to look like a tender.
Yeah.
So we'll be fitting fuel tanks. So this is the engine room. So you can see engine beds, base for a seakeeper. They're building our custom exhaust silencer boxes that we've designed in-house. So we get a lot of groundwork done in here before the deck goes on. And then this is sort of the next phase. Once it's been painted, we go into final fit-outs.
So when would this one be ready to leave? Because it looks quite far along.
Yeah, this is scheduled to leave along with a matching closed limo that goes with it around September this year.
Okay. How much testing do you do once they're at a stage sort of like this, but before delivery?
Yeah, so we'll float the tender once we've got all of the equipment on board to mark the waterline accurately and paint any boot stripe or whatever, like this one's got a red boot top,
Yeah.
the background. And then completely finish the tender, and then we'll do some testing, perhaps without the interior panelling in, so we can check that behind there's no vibrations, no loose things,
Yeah.
listen for
Bit of a shake
rattles
there.
and noises, then assemble everything and go back to the water and make sure there's no squeaks from any panels or things like this. We're custom programming our control systems, and we need to make sure there's not a glitch. When you do something here, something happens that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't know, probably 4 or 5 days of testing ideally on the water, yeah. The hull and deck was put together in this shed, and then they've been working over here, fitting out all the interior, making the panelling, etc., before a final upholstery and initial engineering. So that tender now has all the wiring inside. It's almost ready to switch on, if you like. So we're just going into the final stages. So we've got composites,
Painting.
laminating, sanding and painting, and sort of what we call first fix.
Yeah.
And then we've got the second stage over here, and then we come back over here for the final stages. So already a lot of engineering is in place, a lot of wiring. Now it'll go into the clean shed for final fitting out.
Would you have any input into the space, or are you sort of given the space and then you really have to work from there?
So they're probably coming to us when the yacht's already perhaps a year in build, and then there's 3 more years to go before the yacht's going to be completed.
Yeah, so by then the actual technical drawings and sizes are already
Correct,
done.
yeah. Well, might be able to tweak some small things.
You'll be saying to the designer, come on, give me a bit more room. I can make something even better if I've got a bit more room.
Well, that's what's surprising. I mean, somebody buying even a 60-metre yacht, you know, you're talking 100 million plus now.
Yeah.
So why do I want to go ashore in a 6-metre rib?
No, well, you don't.
You know, I just don't.
No.
So, and that's where it's, I think, important. That's like the San Lorenzo clients that we had in the beginning, 64 San Lorenzo, we put a 9.75 tender in, and they absolutely love
I'm
it.
sure.
So, yeah.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having us. Let's start at the beginning. There's a lot that I want to cover today. So right back at the start, what connected you to boats? How did you even become interested in boats? Where did the passion and love come from?
That's a very good question. I can remember being at even kindergarten, and in the playground there was a big pirate ship that we all used to play on. And I've got an old picture of me being given a model boat when I'm like 6 or 7.
Wow.
And then I went to a very fancy school in Dulwich, was meant to be a dentist, banker, politician, something like that. And to my mother's horror, I left school and went and did a marine engineering apprenticeship in Twickenham on Eel Pie Island. And at that time, they were maintaining all the passenger vessels that ply the Thames. And then that company sent me down to Southampton on a management course. The company went bankrupt. I carried on doing the course. and ended up applying for a job at Cougar Marine, which is how the powerboat racing career started.
Wow.
So worked for Cougar. At that time, we built, I don't know, probably 46-foot triple engine fast pleasure boats.
Yeah.
I think there was a line of 30 of them lined up in Saint-Tropez at one time.
And how old were you then when you sort of got your first, I say proper job, but you sort of out of the qualification and the training?
Yeah, so early 20s.
Early
In my
20s.
20s, yeah.
So from 6 to 20, the passion was already there.
I think so. My father and I built a riverboat together as well in our spare time.
Oh,
And
lovely.
we did all the canals, the Oxford Canal, running up and down the Thames. That was based at Harleyford on the Thames. So I think that's where it all started
So your
from.
poor mother then, not only did you not become a dentist,
Well, and she didn't like boats either. So
and your dad liked boats, so you and him had that
yeah.
passion in common, and she was just hoping that you might grow out of it, but you never did.
No, never did. And I mean, sadly, even until the day she died, bless her, she always said to me, when are you going to get a proper job and, not work in these dirty sheds and dirty environments?
Oh.
And I don't think she ever really
Yeah, she was
took on
still
board what we
hoping
were
that you
doing.
might fancy a bit of dentistry. Well, lucky for the industry, you didn't. But okay, so obviously you've had a very successful career, which we're going to go on to talking about what you're currently doing. But previously, you had a very successful career in powerboat racing as well. And how do you feel that that experience transferred over to designing and building the performance ribs and tenders that you've done throughout your career?
Yeah, so as you've mentioned, I started in powerboat racing and kind of did powerboat racing the wrong way round. Started with the top Class 1 teams, working with the likes of Steve Curtis,
Yeah.
8, 9 times world champion, running a official factory Lamborghini team, going all around the world. And it was a big series then, a lot of racing taking place in Italy and the south of France, so very similar locations, all the playgrounds of the rich and famous.
Yeah.
So the parallels start almost immediately.
Yeah.
And even then, some team owners have had super
Yeah, I was
yachts.
going to say there's a crossover there with the customer, isn't there?
Absolutely. And then, as powerboat racing declined in the UK and worldwide, I could see that, powerboat racing teams had a kind of cycle. You either win everything and the client gets fed up, the owner runs out of money,
Yeah.
or you do so badly he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So there was kind of a cycle of having to find the next team to work for.
Right.
And as a technical director, getting older, you started to command a big salary, and there's always somebody younger clawing at your heels,
Yeah.
in every industry. So I thought, what are we going to do? I can see there's going to be a problem here. So I started a business building ribs.
Yeah.
And my client base originally was my old powerboat racers that still wanted to go super fast, but didn't want to race.
Yeah.
So I was building 90 mile an hour, 8, 9, 10 meter
Which
ribs.
is insane, actually, when you think.
Yeah, I mean,
for
but
a rib to go
proper drivers'
Yeah.
toys, so you really had to want to drive like a sports car, or
Yeah.
you have to feel it in your
And be capable.
arse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how the rib company started, really, as Mark Pascoe Limited. And then a guy called the late Tom Perkins
Yeah.
had followed the build-up of that business. I did build a very, very fancy rib, which I took to Ribex show, which was in Weymouth back in that time, and took to Düsseldorf show. But it was too advanced for the market and too expensive. So I had to strip that back and build a simple outboard rib with just a few seats on it and selling for, 25,000, 30,000 in those days. And that was how the rib business built up. Then, as I say, the late Tom Perkins had followed that business building and came along and said, I'm building this fabulous yacht, the Maltese Falcon. And it was a sailboat, of course, but very technically
Yeah.
advanced
Very. Yeah.
in its time, and still one of the world's most iconic yachts. So,
She is.
but he wanted kind of naughty tenders. Sailing clients, hate powerboats, but he wanted them to be naughty. So wanted loud, straight through exhausts and racy looking tenders. And that was how the tender business started. And Ken Freevock was the designer of the Maltese Falcon and got involved with the design of the tenders. And so that was how we built the first two stunning tenders.
Wow.
And Ken's advice to me at the time was, you have to go to Monaco Yacht Show. So I did, and we had a tiny little booth there with one of the tenders, and people were we were right on a corner. People came around the corner like, wow, what's that? But actually, they were more interested in my chairs that I had on the stand. I tried to buy those than taking us seriously as a tender manufacturer.
Yeah.
So it then took, 20 years working with Ken together to build that business. And I mean,
That's
we built...
so interesting. If we go back a step then. So you were building these performance ribs, which were absolute animals.
Yeah.
But for your friend who were ex-powerboat racers who wanted that absolute top adrenaline performance sort of vessel. But then when you put it out to the public are, no thanks, this is before its time, this is too much, this is, I didn't have the vision or the appetite for it. So then you go back to sort of building more basic, grounded.
Yeah.
But then Maltese Falcon project comes up and then you get to stretch that muscle again because they're like, right, how bad can we go with these?
Yeah. And Tom Perkins was an amazing guy to work with and really loved the project, designed some elements of it himself. Ken obviously had a very good eye and completely restyled the tenders. And I'd never worked with a design studio.
Sure.
All my boats were built on sort of pencil sketches on the back of fag packets. I mean, there were no computers. There was no computer-aided design or 3D modeling in those days. Everything handmade.
But you were also all of those things. You were the designer, you were the engineer, you were the builder. Right back at the start, you didn't have a team of 50 people to be able to give you drawings. You actually were doing all of it.
Well, and even the laminating as well. So I'd be laminating in the evenings with friends that were moonlighting from other businesses building hulls, and then do the engineering during the day.
Yeah.
So it was a tough to build that business, but it, as I say, when we kind of partnered with Ken, that he invested heavily into the company, and that was how we grew into Pascoe International and what that has become today.
Yeah. So let's go back to Maltese Falcon then, because even just talking about the people involved, it's a dream team project. You must have sort of pinched yourself a little bit thinking, not only do I get to build tenders for this incredible sailing yacht that still now is one of the most technologically advanced, design-wise, she still looks fabulous years on, but you got to work with people who really took you so seriously. So this was back in 2005, was it? Roughly around that time?
I think, it's certainly over 20 years ago. I mean, maybe earlier than that.
Yeah.
I think maybe 2002,
I mean,
3.
she still looks incredible now. So that just goes to show the vision that everyone on that project had.
And the original tenders are still on board. So,
So there you go. So your vision also was, so before its time. So were there any lessons that you took from that project that you then took on from there? And how did that project then affect the trajectory of what you were doing with your business and designing and building the tenders?
I mean, I can remember sitting in my office at the time when Tom was coming in, and we prepared the contracts, and we were panicking, are we going to be too expensive, and how do we get the signature, and I had these stunning designs from Ken, so we were so passionate, wanted to build it.
And nothing else to compare it to in the market.
No. I mean,
so pricing even in its basic form would be difficult.
Yeah, it was very difficult. And so we priced at what we thought, but we grossly underestimated the cost of building the tenders. And so I ran into financial difficulty and then took on the V24 contract with the intention of making money to complete the contract, because we had plenty of time on the build for the Falcon Tenders. So I then went on to build 15 V24s, which became a very, very good racing series.
Yeah.
But sadly, my passion meant I ended up losing money building those as well. So they were great.
You're too good at what you do.
Great, sexy race boats, but commercially, I was not a good businessman.
Yeah.
And so partnering with Ken seemed the obvious way to take the business forward with his investment.
Yeah.
And as I say, we then built it up together. And so I think the biggest learning curve was the pricing and costing and having somebody behind the business that runs the business side of the business as well as the
Yeah.
passionate side.
But I mean, when you look back, I mean, we all make mistakes in business. I could list you some of the catastrophic ones
Yeah,
I've
of
made,
course.
certainly over the last 20 years. But when you're a creative like you, and you are a creative, like I've just been up in your design studio chatting with the guys you work with, you are still so involved with hand sketching and all of this stuff. So then suddenly to go from building and having a vision to actually having to do P&L and work out, well, if we sell this for this, that is a different skill set. And at that point, probably you hadn't had so much experience in doing it on the level you were then having to budget for these two super expensive tenders.
No,
So
exactly right. And that's why we ran into trouble. And even now, I still fall foul of, no, let's repolish that fitting, or no, let's not use a standard fitting. Let's design something unique and individual.
and then your accountant says, no, Mark, don't
Yeah.
do that.
So, so yes, now we have a financial team behind us that are managing that properly. So
But that's perfect, because then that allows you to spend your time and energy doing the bit you're really good at, which is what we're sitting on now. So we all have
Absolutely.
things in life we're good and not so good at.
yeah,
Okay, so later on, you decided to step away from Pascoe International, and in 2020, you launched Falcon Tenders with your co-founder, Dean Stoneman,
correct.
who I met earlier. He's a former F1 test driver, Formula 2 champion, P1 powerboat champion, so he likes speedy things.
Yes.
How did you meet, and what made you start the company together? And I'm intrigued, since we've just talked about things you're very good at and not so good at, what do you both bring to the dynamic of the company?
Yeah, so let's cover that a little bit. I mean, when I sadly parted ways with Pascoe, I wasn't able to do anything in the superyacht industry for 2 years.
Right.
So I went back to my old racing roots and went out to America and worked with Magnum
Yeah.
out in Miami for a little bit. Then I did some work with Fabio Buzzi on the lake in Lake Como. We
Wow.
developed the Sunseeker powerboat that they were working on together, which was a great moment because sadly Fabio was killed shortly after that
Right.
in an accident in the Venice Monte Carlo
Right.
endurance race. So it was a great moment, really, those 2 years to go back to my racing roots,
Yeah.
give me some thinking time, and understand how could I start another tender building business.
Yeah.
Having spent 20 years building that one, it seemed an insurmountable mountain to climb.
Yeah, I guess it's also recovery time, because you leave a company that you founded, it has your name,
Yeah,
people know you and the company together. So I guess there's some self-reflection there on what could have been done differently, what maybe wasn't done right from all
yes,
parties, etc. And like you say, thinking about what the future then looked like from there.
correct. So
It's
it
not a
was
bad place to go and do the self-reflection, though, is it?
no,
Working on
mean,
all those lovely projects with those amazing people, and
yeah,
you
it was
know,
a great moment to go back to that and meet some of my old chums from those early
yeah,
racing days. And then that was how I, in fact, met Dean, my business partner. I met his father
right,
years ago in powerboat racing. Dean was 3 years old, running around as a toddler. So I knew his dad, who also powerboat raced.
yeah,
And Colin, Dean's father, is a property developer.
right,
So it's a very successful businessman in his own right. And, you know, we got talking and said, okay, why don't we start a business together? And Dean had one of the sheds here at Maple Farm with his own personal fast boats in.
yeah,
And so it seemed an obvious partnership. And Colin was the perfect investor, really. And so we conceived the brand. The branding takes its name from the Maltese Falcon, which is still very dear to me.
yeah.
And
It's
that's,
where this part of your career started, really, isn't it?
yeah,
That
absolutely.
being thrown into that project, having the belief of all the people involved in it, that you were the right person. So it seems
Yes.
quite fitting, actually,
Yes.
that that's the name you picked.
And Dean, sadly, due to his health, had to drop out of his motor racing career.
Okay.
So became Formula 2 world champion, was already testing for F1,
Right.
and then had a health scare, a big problem for him. And he battled through that and overcame that. And then his passion was in boats.
Yeah.
And his father had always had boats. and he's been into powerboat racing as well. So we both understand the engineering behind it.
Yeah.
He is self-taught and built his own boats in one of these sheds here. So partnering together meant that I could bring, much more experience to Dean,
Yeah.
particularly in the super yachting industry. But working together, we've been able to build this new brand.
Yeah. So you both actually, in a way, were self-taught from doing the high performance boats, because you raced, he raced,
Correct.
you built, he built. You
I
both
mean, and if there's one thing Dean can do absolutely brilliantly is drive anything,
right.
whether that's an articulated lorry with a convoy exceptional, a go-kart, a Formula One car,
He sounds
a
very annoying, but
Lamborghini,
he can just do
a
all of that
boat.
so well.
He really has a feeling and a
Yeah.
passion for that. And I mean, just when we first started this business, he went and took part in the Lamborghini series
Right.
in Europe, and immediately was putting in the best lap times on day one.
Wow.
So he's very passionate with that. And I think also he'd been building the building business with his father as well.
Yeah.
But boats were in his blood, so
Yeah.
coming together and building tenders of this quality was something he'd never imagined, I don't think.
No, sure. It sounds like a dream combination. Because going
Yeah.
into partnership, I always say to people, if they ask for my advice, if I have friends who want to start a business or anything, and they're talking about going into partnership, I always say to them, it sounds over dramatic, but actually going into partnership, I think, is as serious as going into a relationship. Because actually, once you start a company together legally, your responsibilities are far more than even buying a house with someone.
Well, and often you're spending more time together than you are
Yeah.
even with your partner. So,
Exactly. And suddenly, when money becomes involved in really serious decisions, you see a different side to someone that you may have been friends with them for years and they're really good fun to go on holiday with. But suddenly, when you've got wages to pay or whatever, it is such a serious decision. So it sounds like you guys have found a good partnership with both of you bringing different things.
yeah, we found
the
a way
business.
to work well together. And I think we do both bring something. I'm bringing a wealth of experience in this industry, and Dean's bringing that passion, and he's still racing now,
Is he?
so
Oh.
and the racing really does teach you grassroots engineering, isn't
Yeah.
it? If you break down or whatever, you now drill down into why did it fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're able to bring good engineering through to the tenders, because we've learnt on the race boats, pushing everything
Yeah.
beyond its limits. We've learnt what becomes reliable.
Yeah, I mean, you both have done every part of what it takes to build something like this from the start. You've sort of done every job, like you were saying,
Yeah.
when you're at Pascoe building ribs, you're doing things in the evenings, but you didn't have a big team. So then when you are building something, you can understand what will work and what won't work and how to make it the most reliable or
Well, and I
etc.
think it's also very important to understand when you're asking somebody to do a job for you or make it a little bit better or higher quality, if you don't understand how to do it yourself,
Yeah,
you're asking people that you can't really understand them,
yeah,
saying to you, well, I can't make it any better or any faster or
yeah.
whatever. So I think it's very important to be able to pick up the tools yourself and
Yeah.
or certainly have done that. I'm not
Yeah, no,
doing
I
very much on
agree.
the tools nowadays.
Well, you've got an amazing team.
But
who
still
support you.
occasionally have to fix them.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so Dean, I've just been picking Mark's brain about what it's like to work together. And we did touch on you and your sort of history and career, because you've obviously had colourful racing career. And I was asking Mark about your working relationship and what you both bring to the table. So I'd love to hear from your side. What do you think you bring to the working relationship, and how does that then complement each other?
Falcon Tenders is obviously still a new early business.
Yeah.
But early on, Mark come to me and my father back in the end of 2019, 2020,
Yeah.
and come up with this wonderful idea of setting up Falcon Tenders after he was no longer with Pascoe International. We thought it was a great idea, and as we are now here in 2026, we've got this amazing brand. We've grown massively in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, my background myself is that I was racing cars for many years. So I started back in go-kart in 2006.
Right.
So yeah, basically my progression was through go-karting, did cars, and then won Formula 2 in 2010. I tested for Williams in Formula 1 at the end of 2010 in Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
which was a great achievement.
Yeah.
I mean, and to get all the way to the top, sadly, I had it taken away from me in 2011 when I had testicular cancer.
Oh no.
So that was all taken away from me. I made it to the top
Yeah.
in the Formula 1 paddock with all the right people, and
then health issues.
health
stopped
issues
that.
took it away from me, unfortunately.
I'm
But
sorry to hear that.
it's part of a journey. So
Yeah.
I battled cancer for 6 months, and it's a bit emotional.
Oh, it sounds emotional because it must have been a really hard time.
Yeah, you know what I mean? At like, say 19, 20 years old to
Yeah.
go through, I went through.
You were 20?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was
So not only was your
about
career
20
then
years old.
pivoted, but that's extremely rare for someone of that age. So
Yeah, really rare. And it was the rarest form of cancer I could have on testicular cancer. So I went through 6 months of chemotherapy, 4
Yeah.
operations, but I come out the other side. And part of my rehabilitation was 2012, decided to race a powerboat. I've always been around boats my whole life.
Yeah.
So I decided to go into a powerboat race, have a bit of fun, just get my body working again after
Yeah.
all the trauma I've been through. So I did that. But also at the same time, like the sheds we're sat in today, that become my toy shed. So I went around, started buying some boats, and started off with the first boat I bought with a carbon fiber boat with it. It was called Nexus MG,
right.
a 48-foot full carbon. I ended up with one of them in one of the sheds, and I didn't know where to start with epoxy resins, carbon fiber, different materials I needed to build the product. But over time, I learned. I had someone working with me as well. Just between the two of us, we kept developing and learning what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, my first powerboat that I had was full carbon fiber. Had a pair of diesel engines in there running 80, 85 miles an hour. So that's how I sort of got into.
Yeah. So you went from having a passion motorsport speed to then putting that passion then into boats.
Yeah, it was boats.
Still going very
And I-
fast
and
by
I-
the
and I
sounds
was-
of it.
And I was still racing the car at a high level as well. After the cancer, I come back and I went back into Porsche racing in 2013 just to get back into it. End of 2013, I raced in Abu Dhabi in GP3. I thought, you know what, I was at the top. I wanted to see, have I lost it?
Yeah.
But my first race back in GP3, I beat Carlos Sainz, Daniel Kvyat. So they were
So you
the
hadn't
caliber
lost
of
it.
drivers
Yeah.
that I was racing against back in them days.
Yeah.
And then after that, I raced for GP3 for 2014, finished second in the championship, only by a couple of points. And then 2015, I was sponsored by Red Bull.
Right.
So yeah, I was with the Formula 1 team within the pits, and racing the World Series by running out at the highest of the levels. And then after that, really, sort of the racing started dying down. Got to a point where, you either need to find another 2, 3, 4, 5 million to go to the next step, which unfortunately myself, sponsors, we didn't have that ability to put that into the racing. So, boats has been like a passion of mine and a hobby that I've enjoyed. I've always been on the water my whole life. My dad's known Mark since the late 80s, early 90s, racing together.
Yeah.
So, we've always been like more of a family, really. We've known each other for the last 30 years.
Yeah. So a partnership seemed quite a natural step.
Yeah, it's been a journey to start with one computer. But yeah, Mark is very, very, very the eye for detail, what he brings to the table, designs.
Yeah.
It's amazing what he comes up with.
Yeah.
I'm more on the workshop floor, organising, transport, helping the guys. I'm more hands-on.
Yeah. So you're more operational. You're sort of organising
on the shop floor, picking molds up, flipping molds over, getting boats painted. That's what I do mainly. More the day-to-day. That's what I enjoy mainly. But obviously, between me and Mark, we're liaising,
of course,
making decisions together.
That's probably why it works so well, because you're doing slightly different roles, but you're coming together and you basically want the same thing, which
we want that at the end of the day. We want the same result at the end, but we come together as a good team. We've got a great bunch of guys.
You have. I've met a lot of them this morning and chatted with them, and there's a very special feel within the office that you've got a lot of passionate people.
But we want it more of a family business. We don't want it to be managers and managers. We want to be able to, me and Mark, and we can talk to the guys. If they've got issues, they can come to us.
Yeah.
Keep it open office. But as you may well know, we've got a new facility that we're working
We've just
now.
been talking about it. It sounds very, very
So
exciting.
yeah, we're moving over there hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, we've got a 18-meter spray booth. We've got state-of-the-art everything going fully air conditioned. I'm sure Mark spoke about
He
it.
has, yeah. I've already said to him I want to come and have a look when you're in there. It's
gonna be amazing.
exciting. Oh, thank you so much. That's brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's move on to talk then about what you've been doing at Falcon Tenders. So your first project was a 10.6 meter limo tender, which you guys self-funded and built on spec. That's quite a big risk. Bearing in mind, I know what they cost now we've had the tour. So that was a big risk to build. You took her to Monaco, 2021 maybe, was it? What was going through your mind at that stage?
So I felt that to build a new tender brand and compete with my old company, how can we do that? How can we be taken seriously? And I think they were fairly certain that I wouldn't be able to do that, and it was tough.
Yeah, sure.
But I felt to be taken seriously in the industry, it's no good just turning up with some renderings or a model. We need to go, boom, here we are. So I felt the only way to do that was to build a limo tender on spec, something big, and make it complicated, do something different styling, different design, different textures, different finishes. So I thought hybrid, that's got to be the way forward, electric and combustion engine. So we made the tender hybrid, and we built the tender in only 8 months, which was kind of unheard of. And I booked the space in Monaco, and I don't think nobody really knew what we were doing. And then we turned up in September in Monaco with this stunning tender, and everybody was like, how has this happened?
I love that.
I displayed on the land, which I wanted to do differently, because at Monaco, usually tender row is on the water. But I feel you can't see the tenders. You need to see the hull. You want to see the engineering. And I remember going back to my early days with Cougar, London Boat Show in Earl's Court. The boats always looked so stunning under the spotlights, and you can polish everything. Everything looks glitzy. And I felt that's what this industry needs. So displaying on the land also had the advantage that we didn't need a working boat either. So we could secretly have all the lighting working and everything else. So a little bit of smoke and mirrors.
Well, also just to give you a little bit more time, right? Because 8 months is not a long time.
So because the hybrid system then went on to take a further 6 months to develop fully and test and become reliable. And, as I say, I think people had to come and touch and feel the product to make it believable. And it really worked. I mean, the first year we launched in Monaco, I barely had a moment to go to the bathroom to leave the stand. I mean, we were so busy.
I remember it because I remember walking past and seeing you on the stand and thinking, why is he there? And what is that? Because it looked almost like a spaceship. It was so different. And the decision to have it on land for sure was the right one. Because, like you say, along that line, you sort of get lost between everything.
Well, and, again, when I was building my high performance ribs, all the people that booked a test drive or a sea trial, if you like, never ordered. People that bought from me just came and said, I want one like that, I want that colour, I want this upholstery, those engines, and place the order. Because, as a boat builder, we know the boat's going to work. Of course, it's nice to have a sea trial and feel and understand the tender, but I don't think it's necessarily about that. I think people are choosing a car, what car design you like, the colour. Actually, when you go on a test drive, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable, if I go and test drive an Aston Martin, it's difficult to get in, difficult to get out. Maybe it's got something I don't like, but that's the one I want. So I still buy it. I've convinced myself I want it.
That's so true.
It's going to work.
So true. And also, I think going back to launching a company, obviously you'd moved from the previous company, you'd had some time out away from the industry. So to come back and have a tangible product that people could not only see, touch, they could, really, okay, he's back, but also what he's back with is different. And wow. it, looks incredible.
Yeah,
That
and
actually
it was a huge risk because, again, tenders are, we were talking about it earlier, very dependent upon the stowage
Yeah,
in the
sure.
yacht. So the big question mark was how can we sell this tender in the end? What will happen to it? And of course, it starts to become secondhand.
Yeah.
But the luxury of having that tender meant we could go and do a boat show in London,
Yeah.
which I wanted to do, and got in a lot of trouble for running up and down the Thames. But I wanted to, we've got that unique footage
Yeah.
and reinforcing the British brand with the Houses of Parliament, etc., in the
Yeah.
background. And we went and did the Venice Boat Show as well, which is, again,
Amazing.
another stunning
Yeah.
show to do. So we were able to do what we liked with it, to build the brand awareness in the industry.
Yeah.
And we also knew that we very nearly sold that tender to John Staluppi at the first yacht show.
Really?
He absolutely loved it, wanted to buy it, but it wouldn't fit in the yacht. I mean, we'd have had to cut it in half. And then he was like, "Can't you put it on my heli deck? Get it on board somehow.
First world problem.
I'll transfer the money tomorrow." But
Oh
we
no,
kind
you
of,
must have been spitting feathers.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the
but,
sale was there,
we,
but actually, that probably was perfect that it didn't work out, because then you had it.
in a way, because it was an essential marketing tool.
Yeah.
And we knew that, really knew deep down we weren't going to pick up a client at that first show, or it would be a tall order. So we'd already planned to go on to build a matching open version,
Right.
which we could do partly from the same tooling, so
Yeah.
minimise the cost. And the small team that we had here, we wanted continuity of work,
Yeah.
so we could keep everyone employed. So we committed to building the second one. And then, of course, I ended up with 2 tenders as stock
Yeah.
tenders, and a huge amount of money invested by Colin, of course. But that meant that the second year at Monaco, we could have the limo on the water
Yeah.
and the open beach club version on the land.
Yeah. So all those moments during that first sort of launch, there's so many sort of quite important moments. You've got to keep your nerve for a start, because Colin's obviously invested money. You and Dean have invested your life into now going forward with Falcon Tenders. You go to the show. That's super expensive to have the boat there, let alone build it.
Yeah.
Then you don't necessarily sell it there, but that's quite good because it means you can take it around. So really, for that first year, 18 months, maybe longer, you have to hold your nerve. All 3 of you have to hold your nerve that it is going to work out.
Well, and somebody's going to somehow come and sign and order a tender
Yeah,
from
because
us.
ultimately that's what you're doing it for. So that 18 months, that first year, 18 months, you guys must have all been hand-holding and saying, we believe in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
The product's amazing. We know it will work. And then, of course, you must get your first sale, and then you think, we're off. That's
Yeah,
it.
so our first sale went to San Lorenzo yacht. Very, very nice client, but was brought to us initially through Superyacht Tenders and Toys.
Right.
And so they introduced the client. We designed a full custom tender for this client. And he and his wife came and visited us at the Venice Boat Show. And I thought this would be, half an hour meeting. And we ended up spending 6 or 7 hours with the
Wow.
client and his wife, going through all the fabrics, finishes, interior details. And that was our first sale. And it was a big milestone to
huge
get a
milestone.
signature.
Yeah.
And that client absolutely loves the tender and will not use anything else.
Fantastic.
So they were a great client. to
And
work
that
with.
sales process, as your first sales process, it wasn't just someone over the phone saying, I'll take it. You would have had to really then go through the process of what was possible
Well, we started
for a
with
new
some
product.
very basic sketches and renderings that when I look at them now, I'm like, how did we get this signature? Because
They weren't still on a cigarette packet, were they?
No. But they were starting out really as pencil sketches.
Yeah.
And then I worked with Rob Armstrong at 30C, does a lot of my
Yeah.
high quality renders for me. He put a little extra styling tweaks to it, and we ended up building a stunning tender for them. So
Maybe that's what they loved. Maybe they loved
I think
working with
so.
you from the start, from those basic sketches.
that
and,
client loved the process, loved to
Yeah.
be involved directly, which was great.
and it's
So-
100% custom to
Yeah.
what they want. There's not
and
another one
completely
like it.
unique.
Yeah.
So
I love. See, there's a story now, but with every single one you're building, and I think
Yeah.
that has such a value in a world where most of the customers we're dealing with can buy anything they want, whatever they want. Nothing's out of
Correct.
reach. what people want is something a story to tell their friends, or
Absolutely.
when their friends get on. Did you know there's not another one like this in the world? And I designed this, and
Yeah.
there's a huge value in that.
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks for watching this episode so far. We have some great guests coming up, and we wouldn't want you to miss any of those future episodes. So please don't forget to click the subscribe button and enjoy the rest of this episode. So you work with some of the top design houses in the industry, as we've just mentioned. How collaborative is that process between the designer, builder, and yacht team? You also mentioned previously that one of the most unique challenges is optimizing tenders to fit in the vessels, whilst obviously getting the best that you can out of the design. How complex is that in reality? I mean, I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it makes it very difficult initially to start a sale, because where we don't have a catalogue or a brochure, and that was also particularly difficult in the beginning because we had no library of anything
Yeah.
to show anybody. But fortunately, I got to know a lot of people in the industry. So a lot of top designers agreed to partner with me and would share some designs that we could use as concept designs.
Yeah.
As an initial library, and put a brochure together, etc. But yeah, the process is quite complex. It really starts. We need the stowage bounding, what's called the bounding box, which is an area where the tender can sit within the garage. So that tends to be a kind of upside down T shape.
Yeah.
Between the two beam cranes usually, and that gives us sort of the area where we can start to style, and then. If we can get some profile renders of the yacht in the beginning, we'll start to take some styling cues from that,
Right.
and start to work up something that shares some parallels with the yacht styling and
Yeah.
feeling.
And I guess if you're working on a design for a new build and you're in the process with the new build team, you're going to understand what the owner wants from the mothership, and then that would help you then work out really what they want from the tender also.
Yeah, so exactly. We know from the exterior styling of the yacht that that's the version the owner has signed on.
Yeah.
And so he likes those shapes, likes the colours.
Yeah.
And then if we can get some glimpses of the interior beach club areas or whatever, we can then start to look at fabrics and so forth. But then sometimes we're working, we've got a tender in build at the moment where Zuretti has done the interior,
Yeah.
and he's done the full interior for the limo as well.
Wow.
So, which is again a really interesting process
Yeah.
to work with a top interior design studio and see what stamp they can also put on it.
So going back to that then, so you mentioned sort of quite early on when you were starting to sell that there were people in the industry that were happy to partner with you, which must have felt pretty good because you've had this 2 years away, you started a new you're a startup. That's always a bit frightening. You build these tenders with no customer at the time. You've invested your time, money, everything. So then for people from the industry that you would have worked with previously to say, well, I believe in what you're doing and I know what you say you're going to deliver is what you're going to deliver. That must have felt like quite reassuring.
No, it felt amazing. So we
Yeah.
partnered originally with Mick Leach on the first tender that we built.
Right.
And then, names such as Tim Hayward, Terry Disdale, all
Wow.
these people I knew and are really kind of personal friends as
Yeah.
well. But yes, it makes me feel very proud that
Yeah.
we have this place in the industry.
Yeah. So one of the sort of strengths we've talked about when we were having a tour of the factory with Falcon Tenders is you've got quite it's not that small now, but a small, highly skilled team. Why is that important to you? And also the other thing you've mentioned a couple of times, which is so interesting, is that every tender you build is a one-off. So no repeat designs. And that's quite unique in this industry. So why were those two things important to you?
So I think, there are many or several successful tender building companies locally to us here. So for me, it was very important, even when building Pascoe with Ken, we were always kind of the market leader and people love to copy, which can be annoying. I mean, even with my ribs in the early days, we'd do a fancy console. Next year, somebody's got almost the same. which in a way is very flattering and in another way very annoying.
Yeah, no, I
But
understand that.
when you're the innovator, you're staying one step ahead of the people copying. So I thought, what will make Falcon, what will make a client come to Falcon
Yeah.
rather than going back to Pascoe or to Compass or
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Cockwells. So I felt, let's make it a really special experience from the start to finish, and include unique fittings, items. I talked to you earlier about deck fittings. It doesn't just have to be a cleat. Let's make it like a piece of jewellery
Yeah.
as well as a functional piece of equipment. So, and I think, spending this much money on a tender also, there's a big sort of one-upmanship, isn't it, in Superyacht? Mine's bigger than yours,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I think if they can have something completely unique, you've got something different, and know that nobody else is going to have the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's the little niche we've carved out in the industry. But to make something very special and individual, you need special people.
You do.
And special people can be quite difficult to work with.
And hard to find.
But really enjoyable to work with as
Yeah.
well. But I find that only works as a kind of smaller family environment.
Yeah.
So rather than a big corporate company where your staff on the shop floor become clock numbers, my staff are all individual characters and unique in themselves. And that sort of melting pot and mix allows you to produce something amazing.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got their different input.
Yeah.
And I find as a small business, we can make a decision today. We don't have to have a board meeting and sit down and take a week to make a change to a drawing.
Yeah.
Somebody from the shop floor can come to me and go, look, this doesn't work. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I can see that. And we change it immediately.
Yeah.
Um,
It gives you an agility to be able to pivot and progress the company so much easier,
yeah.
for sure.
And, I think, as a smaller team, everyone remains passionate. So people that are working with us here, this is more than a job. It's more than the money. Of course, we have to pay them.
Of course.
And
yeah.
everybody wants to be paid well. But they love to come to work and love to see the products finished. And it's taking a pride in what you're doing. So it becomes a lifestyle more than just a job, really.
Yeah. I feel that meeting some of your team
Yeah.
today, that there is a very sort of special feel where everyone's excited and proud to work on the projects. And when you started the business, there's so many things that on paper were risky, as we've just mentioned, building a tender yourself, self-funding, going off to a boat show with no client base, all these types of things. But actually to stand up and say, right, we're going to build this business and we're going to be unique. We're not going to build repeats. We're not going to have sort of stock, all these things. They were really big decisions to make. And a lot of companies might start off thinking that's what we want to do. But then financially, they were like, maybe we should build a range of, boats that can just be repeated. But you guys haven't. You've stuck true to keeping your sort of integrity to why you started Falcon.
Well, I think it's very important to stick with that because that gives us our little niche in
Yeah.
the market, and that's why
100%.
we're sort of not really focusing on building ribs.
Yeah.
There are other companies doing it really well
Yeah.
and at a cost-effective price.
Yeah.
We would build a rib for somebody if somebody wants something very special.
Yeah.
But it's going to come at a cost 3 times what they could buy from somewhere else
Yeah,
as
sure.
a semi-production.
Yeah, because actually what you're building here are sort of pieces of art to go with a super yacht that is built like a piece of art. The
Exactly
ones that are
that.
coming out now, the design they are really pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
And rather than opening up the garage and out comes something that's a bit boring or generic or a bit ugly, what comes out is something that looks like a mini super yacht.
Yeah.
The design and the ideas that have gone into it. So the niche that you set out to fill, you have filled.
I think so, and we're very proud of that. And again, within the limo, a limo can be a strange place to be. A lot of yacht owners don't really like boats.
Yeah.
The yacht's really a floating hotel.
They are,
almost.
yeah.
So it's very important for me within the main saloon of the limo to really make it feel more like a living room, like a lounge space, rather than a boat, which tends to just have boxes as bench seats and storage underneath. Really make it feel like you can move the sofas in and out.
Yeah. It's an extension of the living space they have on board.
Well, and not
ultimately.
only that, it's the first, when you're inviting guests to your super yacht, the first thing they see is the tender collecting them.
Yeah.
So that's their first impression.
That's so true. You don't want
Yeah.
your mates rattling around with an anchor and a few life jackets
Exactly,
getting
yeah.
soaking wet. You want them turning up.
The whole experience has
Yeah.
to start from the dockside, isn't
Yeah.
it? So-
Brilliant. Okay, so sustainability is a word that gets thrown around a lot,
Yeah.
especially at the moment in yachting. But what does that mean to Falcon Tenders, and what does it mean when it comes to the design and build? And is it a realistic goal to build a sustainable tender in today's world?
I mean, I think it certainly is. Again, when starting the business, I was very conscious of that, which was why we did a lot of research into the composite structures. How do we do that with more sustainable materials? So we're using a green plant-based epoxy resin
Right.
rather than mineral oil-based
Didn't even know there was
resin.
such a thing.
Yeah, so all our tenders are built with that. And then launching the new limo, we decided to make it hybrid.
Yeah.
So, in the marina, seamlessly, quietly operating. But then once you're on the open sea, combustion kicks in and
Right.
starts regeneration. As you arrive at the yacht, it drops back into electric. So that was another key to it. And then using sustainable veneers. So we were using edge pressed bamboo on the interior, sustainable leathers,
Right.
sourced in Scotland. So yeah, we do take that seriously, and we're
Yeah.
trying to, keep
Do the
that
best you
behind the
can.
brand. Yeah.
And do you think when you're coming to selling or discussing with a client, do you find, especially in recent years, it's actually more of a conversation that comes from the client?
I think it certainly is because, the super yacht industry, has some controversies surrounding it. And so owners are also trying to tick those boxes
Yeah.
and make sure that they're seen to be doing what they can.
Yeah. And there's a feel-good factor, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so.
And it goes along also with the story that when they're with their friends or family talking about all these unique features, it also...
Well, and a lot of interior designers are coming up with some very interesting fabrics and things like this now made in a very sustainable way.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Oh, so a lot of thought has gone into that since the start then. for you.
Yes, and when we launched our little 660 Solas boat, all our tenders can also run on sustainable fuels,
Right.
biofuels.
Wow, I
So,
didn't know that.
yeah.
Fantastic. So I've had a lovely tour this morning and I'd love meeting the team. You're here at this current facility, but in exciting news, there is a imminent move. So you've got a new site secured,
Yes.
and is the move sort of happening anytime soon? Is it?
It's actually happening as we speak.
Oh,
So
okay. We'll be
we've
thrown out of here in a minute.
we've committed to a new 30,000 square foot facility.
So just to put that in perspective, am I right in thinking we're about 2,500 here?
I think we've probably got in total about 4,000 to 5,000 here
With the
between
different sheds.
between the different sheds. But
And the new place is...
the new place is 30,000, so it's a big jump.
Big jump.
And we're custom building new offices, reception area, design studio, sample room, production office, boat building areas, full heated spray booth, etc. So it's going to take this business to the next level. And
Yeah.
being 5 years in, it's kind of the right moment
Sure.
to scale a little bit. But we have no intention to grow to 100, 120 people because we want to keep that passion
Yeah.
and uniqueness and kind of family feeling behind the business.
So that was my next question, because obviously with a new site like that comes new plans for the business. Obviously you're not just going to pick up and go there and continue exactly the same. But the idea for the future for Falcon Tenders is to continue to be the tender builder that's filling the niche of being unique.
Yeah, so
whilst keeping that
the aim is to
small
build
bespoke
four
team.
or five unique pieces a year,
year.
but we'll be able to do that a little bit more efficiently and in a safer environment as well.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for us to comply with all the health and safety requirements here
Sure.
in this site. we're building that site with air conditioning,
Yeah.
full extraction systems, etc. So it's going to be a much safer environment and a nicer place for everyone to be.
Yeah, like you say, it's about providing the best work environment you can to get the best
Correct,
results.
yeah.
And if you've got lots of lovely people who are passionate, you want them to come to work and be safe and
And be proud of where they
yeah,
work.
exactly.
So,
And also
yeah.
have heating in a spray booth.
Yes.
That sounds nice in the
Well,
winter.
Well, that's very important because we have to bake the structures once
Yeah.
they're made. So with this new spray booth, we'll be able to ramp the temperature up to 80, 90 degrees and monitor it properly.
Wow.
Whereas it's very difficult for us to do that here.
Yeah.
And then the whole workshop environment will be air conditioned. So in the summer, it won't be too hot. In the winter, we can keep it nice and cozy.
Gosh, everyone's going to not know what to do with themselves. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's a very exciting moment.
So what about project-wise? Is there anything you can I get the goss on any projects or things that are in the pipeline? I don't need to know boat names, but anything
No.
exciting that you've been working on or you've got in your mind that might be coming in the future?
I mean, every single project for me is very exciting because they're all unique and
Yeah,
each client
that's
is very
true.
different and you're working with different teams all the time and different design houses. But we are working on things ranging from a 5-meter full electric little fun jet tender.
Right.
And we're also very close potentially to a 20-meter ultra high performance surface drive
Wow.
run alongside. So we're not just making limos, and we're not just making really comfortable, smooth running boats.
Yeah.
We can still do something very high performance, and that's
Yeah.
obviously in our DNA from
Yeah,
the beginning.
both you and Dean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that
we're
sounds
really well
exciting.
placed to supply a client with that kind of thing, and the run alongside market is ever increasing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of boats you can go and buy off the shelf, but they're not a tender.
Yeah.
So whilst they do the job reasonably well, they're not to this level of quality of finish, and they don't have the attention to boarding areas, boarding
Yeah.
details. The key to a tender is how do I get on and off? Because that's what it's, it's
Yes,
just
of
a shuttle
course.
really. It's
What
just a
it's for,
taxi.
yeah.
So I think there's a really big market opening up for something unique in that area.
Yeah. As a dual purpose, so almost as a performance boat, but also it can moonlight then as a
Yeah, so
comfortable,
something like a
safe
60-meter
tender, yeah.
yacht having a 20-meter run alongside
Yeah.
to blast down to Saint-Tropez for lunch
Yeah.
from Monaco, let's say, you need a fairly sizable tender to do that
Yeah.
and be comfortable. So something that will run, in 2-meter waves, 50 knots or whatever.
Yeah. So lots of exciting things
Lots of
coming there.
things in
So
the pipeline.
can I come back once you've moved to your new facility and have another nose
Absolutely.
around there?
Yeah, please,
Okay,
please
I'm going to
do.
hold you to that.
We'd love you to.
Brilliant.
And yeah, let's do another piece.
Thank
That'd be
you.
great.
Thank you so much for having us. I've
No,
had the most wonderful morning. I've enjoyed meeting your team and hearing the story and just understanding the thoughts behind Falcon. And yeah, thank you so much for
Yes,
having us.
It's an absolute pleasure to show you around and introduce you to everybody.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.